What's going on, y'all? My name is Christopher Life Willers, and this is the Stay Free Show, where every single day, at least once a day, I get up here and I host conversations that are geared or revolving around the topic of prison, mental health, addiction, and more. Why? Because these are things that impact people, not just people. I feel like all people everywhere. My friend down here, Taj from the Humanization Project, is down here shaking his head. Taj, go ahead and please introduce yourself to our very organic conversation today, man.
Yeah, that means keep the intro short, and I got it. I'm Taj Mahon-Haft with the Humanization Project, somebody who did some time, somebody who also has some education, somebody who's also a father and a partner, somebody who also loves hiking, just a person.
Shout out to hiking. When listen, I don't know if it's because I'm 40 or I was locked up for 17 years. Either way, hiking is an amazing thing now. Thank you, Taj, for
I have a theory on that. It's because when you're inside, no matter what, you can never walk more than like 100 yards in one direction without having to turn. You can now walk as far as you want in whatever direction you want when you're hiking. Like I was waiting for that chance to just keep walking. No fence, no walls. That's what
This
it
is
is.
very true, bro. This is very true. That's I used to be on Camp 17, like there were tree stumps there. You could touch trees and like right. And for anybody that's ever been locked up, like most prison yards, it's concrete, steel. There's no grass in some places. You know what I'm saying? But we're getting ready to get into this conversation. We're getting ready to talk a little bit about the prison experience through my brother's eyes. We're getting ready to talk about how you can advocate for you and your loved one. If you're trying to get somebody home, how you can help potentially get laws changed. Because a lot of times when we come home, we think we can't do anything about it. We think we can't cause an impact. And also, man, if y'all got questions, please put them in the chat, man. Shout out to everybody. Taj, if you hear me screaming people's names out randomly, that's just me shouting out people on the live, good brother. And I also want to say, anybody who's watching this, Taj is somebody I collaborate with, outside of this digital space, man, when it comes to just advocacy. And we did a storytellers workshop recently where we were able to support individuals and assist them in telling their stories to be even more impactful, even though they were all already amazing, impactful people. But so this is going to be an amazing conversation. Rob, I see you. Thank you, good brother. Um, Tosh, I gotta ask you straight up, man, because we're straight into it. One of the comments that or questions that gets thrown at me constantly is, what is it like to be white in prison? And as much as I can try to answer that question, I can't. I can't. I can only partially answer that question. But it's one of those things people legitimately ask about the prison experience. And I want to also ask you, do you think race has an impact when it comes to prison experience? And also, this is a PG-13 conversation. I don't know why I said that right then, but just so we know.
Because you know me, because you spent time
I
with
gotta
me.
tell
That's
you, I
why
don't want to hit the
you
stop
button. Yeah. But while we're talking about prison, we can't talk like we're in prison because man, you ain't never heard nothing, right?
Right.
But I think addressing both those things, what's it like to be white in prison and how does race play into prison? I want to flip the order of that. And I'll say the first thing. So is there anywhere in America where, or really in the world, but especially in America, where race does not play a factor into how things, the dynamic of things like original sin? And I was in prison in Virginia, which for people who don't know, I'm not going to give you the full sociology lesson, but the very first place whiteness as a legal concept was born and its privilege was in Virginia, which bled into its justice system from the start. So yeah, it's in there. And I'll say like, it's also, I say that, but it's also not in the way that the stereotypes and assumptions that people, it's not like white guys are all skinheads with shanks fighting all the guys who are black, who are fighting all the guys who are Hispanic, like that, or women, or
Right.
what, depending on your prison, right? That's
Right.
not what it is. But the racial dynamic, and I'll say it, like there were moments where, as a white person in the prison in the South, I was in the minority, not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of pecking order, which is a thing that all people in the world should have to deal with, especially white people, because you're never, you never have to experience that normally, right? It's a good way to get a sense of how the world works when it's not you. So I'll say there's some benefit there, but it takes some getting used to. But it's
Perspective.
also, and I also had white privilege while I was in there because I'm able to navigate forms and paperworks and administrators and people with authority because that's what the world has trained me to be confident in doing. And so in the even as I was in the lower end of the pecking order in some regards, I still had white privilege the whole time. And I'll tell you, but in terms of interacting with people, like if you treat people with respect, especially in prison, they will
Right.
treat you with respect in return, right? Even a white
I say it all
guy,
the
a
time.
middle white pacifist in a southern prison, I was able to get through without a single fight, and I got on the phone the whole time,
I wanted to ask
right?
you that, yo, and thank you for being up here. I tell people all the time on my when I do my content, I'm like, yo, you don't have to fight in prison. Like, well, I did a lot, but because I was whatever. But you don't have to. Like, I know Unique. Man, I know a few brothers that been down for double digits. Unique was down 19 years, I think, never one altercation. It's possible, which leads me into this question because again, man, some fire questions. Shout out to everybody in the room, man. If y'all got questions, please put them in the chat. Um, the psychological aspect of prison, or people are always asking that part, but more specifically, I want to ask you, how does intelligence play into an individual's journey in prison? Because a little bit of your background, I mean, you're one of the smartest people I know. I'm not just saying that because we're up here and I'm trying, but when you speak, I'm like, yeah, when you got a way of delivery, there's things you have, but intelligence, the ability to communicate effectively, what does that do for a person in prison? Is that good? Is that bad? Does that make you a target? Do you stick out?
It goes back to respect, Chris. So if you are intelligent and speak down to everybody, the officers who are all probably right there in that category of people you're smarter than when you're intelligent, not
Hmm.
all of them, but certainly like most officers are low wage workers, right? Even if we're like what we're really talking about here is people who didn't have a lot of options are usually working in prison. So if you're a jerk and you talk down to people, it's going to suck to be intelligent in prison because that's the treatment you're getting. People see through. Sincerity is real, right? But
Yeah.
if you use your intelligence to help people and offer your kindness, which is what I did, like the reason I had that experience and didn't have to fight and got on the phone anyway was because I was like, I could either try. I was scared out of my mind when I first got there. Not
Yeah.
because of the other people, because I know how to interact with people, but because you hear all these things, you see all these things.
Prison.
And yeah, it's prison. And I was new and my whole life was changed and all this. And
Right.
like, I was like, I can either try to be hard, but I don't know that that's going to sell here, or I
Right.
can just be my nerdy self. And every time somebody needs help on paperwork or needs a form filled out or needs help on their GED work
Right.
or whatever it is, I can help them because why would I not want to? Like you do that
Right.
and everybody's like, all right, that dude's all right. And then intelligence is respected because people respect intelligence. People prefer, not always, but by and large, people prefer things that are clearly useful information to just nonsense.
Yeah, I know, man. That's one of the things I was for. I always had like an inmate advisor job early on at Sussex too. My first time there, I don't even know how I ended up getting that job, but I was in the United States Air Force. I had a certain level of intelligence, and I used that in there for the same way you said. Like I might have been a little trying to be more cool with it or whatever, but every opportunity, one of the brothers was like, "Yo, I don't know." I would step up so quick because I wanted to make the connection. And I'm gonna tell you something too. Strategically, I would try to sit like if I knew one of the big homies from this car over here or this city or whatever, like oh, you need help, bro? I got you, man. Come over here. I'm making the connection. I'm assisting. If anything go left for whatever reason, and I was a little bit more wild and what Taj was chilling. We already got that established connection right there. Hey, bro, that's Crit. Let him be, man. That's Crit, man. He be helping me with you know what I'm saying? So I want to ask you this, because you touched on it about limited opportunities. A lot of people that work at correctional facilities and prisons. Can you break down how they strategically place prisons, etc., or how basically what you were saying right there? However you want to break it down, as a matter of fact, because it's in different ways.
So States don't pay officers well. It works out to like $15, $16, $17 an hour for working in a place that you're also inside of prison. So let's remember that's the offer, right?
Yeah.
And your job is inherently stressful because nobody you're working with wants to be there by definition, right? So that's the context. So who's going to ever do that? You got to go to marginalized places, right? And if you can't just go to what we usually think of as marginalized places like cities, because cities have other options that are low wage work that don't involve going inside a prison. So what they did when we did mass incarceration on the scale that we did it was a long thing. But the 90s and early 2000s, that was when most of the prisons that reflect mass incarceration were built. And they were that coincides with the exact same time that deindustrialization was ruining rural areas in terms of manufacturing. So all of a sudden you had all these communities emptying out in rural places and there's no jobs to be had. And they're like, all right, all these terrible, terrible super predator black people, scary brown people, gonna, whatever, using all these dog whistles. We need to lock them up. And the only jobs available in your neighborhood are these ones where you get to be in charge of making sure that those dangerous, scary people are kept where they belong. And welcome to prisons. And so that's why most of them now are in out of the way rural places with no economic advantages or opportunities besides that. And you've already told people that they're there to protect everybody by being enforcers of some old-fashioned nonsense dog whistle stuff.
Yeah, I don't know, and I want to be clear. There's a couple of COs that they support the content. There's a couple that I'm cool with, and so it's not like we saying, but we're just talking about the opportunities being limited. They're in rural areas. There's not really many job opportunities. So it's kind of, and here's the thing, sometimes it's a generational thing as well. Like, it's just, this is what it is. We live here. This is where we all work. And it should be studied. It should be studied, man, and the overall impact of the type of people that work in prisons. And I wonder about PTSD trauma when it comes to correctional officers. I really don't hear too many correctional officers speak about it, but you hit it on the head when saying that they're in prison with us. Like, they're in there. Like,
I wasn't trying to suggest all officers embody or embrace that mentality. No, I want to clarify because I should be careful about that. Like, that's not, but what I'm saying is that was the selling point by which we established jobs in otherwise marginalized economic areas in rural places, right? So it's feeding into stereotypes. Not everybody's going to reflect that, but that is the basis for it. And I will say they have studied this a little bit. This is where my sociology nerd can come out. So first of all, actually one of my doctoral, somebody on my committee was actually one of the first people who studied this and found that if you actually look at it long term, there is no economic advantage. In fact, there's probably a small disadvantage because of various things that get entrenched. Not going to nerd it up that much, but it doesn't actually help economically. That's number one. In terms of the people that go into it, like most jobs that are in law enforcement, but also like most jobs that are in any position of authority without a lot of wage, it over indexes. Way more people go to that job if it doesn't have any money, but does have the authority. If it's people that are narcissistic tendencies, authoritarian tendencies, violent tendencies, it actually selects psychologically for the last people you want to give those jobs to.
Wow. Which explains why back before I caught my case, I had applied to become a CO at Rappahannock Regional Jail, the same jail I'd end up being locked up at. It makes sense now. It makes sense. It was either that I signed up to be a volunteer firefighter too, though. Yeah. Hey, shout out to y'all, man. I see y'all asking questions about pay. Somebody said, do you want to explain pay really quick, man? And I want to get into some other things, but somebody just asked, what was the pay like where we did time? We both did time in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We know it's different in different places, but can you break that down? And maybe also in comparison to commissary prices, if you want to, somewhere in the mix, because I'm getting ready to drop a post tomorrow explaining some commissary prices.
I still have nightmares about ramen. Although I have also had this dream that sometime I'm going to come back. I'm going to walk around somewhere in my town now and try to pay for something with ramen noodles and some deodorant to see how that goes. Because that's prison currency, right? Wouldn't that be funny? Just see what people did.
I should do that as a skit to somebody.
That'd be a good, like, keep
Right.
trying it and see what but anyway, the way the pay works, so there's nowhere, regardless of what state, that some it's flat zero. There's nowhere that pays you an appropriate wage. Even at states where they've abolished the idea that you can be enslaved when you are incarcerated, some states have constitutionally abolished that recently, 13th Amendment. But even in those places, they find legal workarounds, and it's still $1 an hour or something thereabouts at the absolute best. In Virginia, that's only recently been to where you could even make $1 an hour, and that's only for peer recovery specialists and who
Okay.
are certified. Otherwise, the top rate in Virginia, if you're working for the private industries that have jobs in there, that's like tops out about 85 cents an hour, and they're making tens of millions. And if you're working actually for the prison, it's a top pay of 45 cents an hour, 30 hours a week, which, to do the math for everybody's $54 a month. I have a PhD, and I got paid $600 a year for full-time work teaching, doing the same thing that I was doing previously for considerably, not great pay, because teachers never get paid great, but considerably more pay than there was at $54 a month. And so that $54 a month has to pay you for not just all of your commissary, because you don't get your hygiene stuff for free. And if you're in prison and you stink, people will let you know. That is not okay. That is part of being rude, right? So you got to pay for your hygiene. You got to pay for your ramen noodles, because the cafeteria sucks. And so ramen noodles are about, now I think they're like 45 cents or so for a single pack of the cheapest noodles. So that's about an hour of work. If you want to make a phone call, it's recently gotten cheaper, but that's still an hour or two of work. If you want a song on your little device, that's like 4 hours of work. If you want some deodorant, it's up to like 6 or 7. Like, you have to work almost a whole day to get some deodorant, right? It just doesn't add up. And the reason that's important is because they $3.13, to put numbers on it. In Virginia, that's how much the state pays a private company per day per person to feed you 3 meals. So you're going to have to buy commissary. If they're making profit at 70 or at $1 a meal, they're making their millions of dollars in profit and getting $1 a meal from the state, and they're giving you less than that. So you're going to have to buy the commissary that costs more than you could possibly pay, which means your parents, your partners, your kids, your friends, the people in your life who aren't you are going to end up having to pay for it, which puts all the burden on them, which they already usually lost in income when you went to prison. It's a mess.
And we're not going to get into the prison industrialization thing right now, because we'll be up here for 2.5 more hours. And I was just sitting there thinking about when I worked in Enterprise on Haynesville, and I was in the embroidery department, and we were doing the college stuff and all this, and we were the special workers. We were the oh my goodness. Anyways, you spoke about family, you spoke about loved ones, etc. Man, I want to segue into this, because you're somebody that did time in prison, but you're somebody that's out here advocating and causing an impact. It's not about putting yourself on the pedestal, not doing that, but can you run down some of the things you've been able to help cause a change with people you collaborated, whatever it is that you want to mention, because I need people to understand the work that can be done when you come home from prison.
Even before you come home, Chris, not to correct you, but
Oh,
yes, I actually would still be in prison right now. I've been home for over 2.5 years. I would still have 4 months, or right at 2.5 years today, actually. 2.5 years today, I have been home. And I would still have another 5 months if it were not for the fact that a bunch of justice impacted people, not a big fat we, got our voices together and led the passage of the expansion of good time. Essentially, it's called earned sentence credits in Virginia, but retroactively, and it's reduced Virginia's prison population, that law alone, almost 20% in the last 4 years. And
that's
I am one of the
amazing.
recipients. Yeah, I mean, that's systemic change. And to tell everybody a truth that we're not supposed to say, like, I helped organize that. Our organization did, from inside, while I was still in there with my partner who's out here. So it's everybody getting involved. But that's the kind of stuff. And ever since then, since I've come home, We've expanded that law. We've made, like, not me, not even just our organization, but the justice impacted community has banded our voices together. We've changed the price of phone calls and video visits. We've gotten oversight for DOC, which is a work in progress. I will own they have not quite gotten it to where they need it to be, as you know. But we got we got stuff coming this year to expand the opportunities for people to stay connected in visits. To provide translation services to people who don't speak English, which are no longer guaranteed in prisons for reasons that are a much bigger political mess. But there's all sorts of things, and fines and fees have been changed. This year, we're hoping, and Chris, I know you can care about this, we're hoping to get rid of we're hoping to end extended solitary in Virginia this year. Good. We think we got a good shot too. So these are the kind of things, and all of those were led by us, right? Like literally in the case of the earned sentence credit law, there was me and some people on the yard. In fact, a bunch of people, Chris, from when you were inside in Virginia, like we had some talks on the yard about what we could do. And then I took my nerdery and put it to paper, and somebody else took this, and then everybody got involved, and it became this whole thing. And it literally started with some people having a conversation on the yard, right? And now the law has changed and prison's smaller.
Yeah, man. I wanted to ask you that, just not to sit here and, but you cause an impact. Countless people are coming home from prison and advocating for people, making sure that laws can be written, changed, etc. And shout out to every single person that makes the decision to, because there's a weight, and I just want to speak to that. There's a weight that comes with looking back, what I'm saying, or reaching back for your brothers and sisters or the juveniles. Everybody can't continue to do the work that involves you dealing with prison or the system every day or months on end or whatever it is, because the trauma that's attached to our own personal experiences. So to any advocate out there that's doing the good work, man, that maybe isn't acknowledged or feels like you're not seen, or you feel that weight, I see you. I know Taj sees you as well. So just wanted to say that really quick. But I want to ask you now, man, what are some things that what are some things that you're collaborating with other organizations, people on? What are some things that are going on right now that maybe people should know about?
Yeah, so the solitary one has been vetoed 2 years in a row, and this year we think we got that. So that's a big thing. Extended solitary, and I'll be straight up with people, like never before and never since, but for that time I had of extended solitary without doing anything to get in trouble. 14 months straight, I almost killed myself multiple times. I wanted to. Like that stuff, that experience was terrible. And to end that, to make it so there has to be a reason for somebody to be isolated like that, because what? You're already in prison or jail, and then you get locked up further. That means you're in crisis, right? Yeah. I mean, and so who is ever going to get better in crisis by being stuck in a box for weeks or months or years at a time? It just doesn't, right? Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense. And so that's one big thing. Also, I would not have survived, let alone thrived afterwards, were it not for my loved ones. Like getting through solitary, that was part of it. And then turning from severe depression into somebody that's trying to organize from prison and do all this stuff. That was my loved ones. And that was visits, especially, right? And now DOC has made visits like they mistreat grandmas and kids and partners, and then they say you got to leave from an empty room after 2 hours, even though you came from Chicago to Virginia. And they say all this, and they, and people we know and love have been discriminated against for the religious, for the religious beliefs as they go through searches. Like they just mistreat people and make it impossible. And 92% fewer visits since COVID allowed them to change the rules in Virginia. And we're just not okay with that. We want our loved ones to be able to still be part of our lives. And so we're coming for that. Not me, not even our organization, but a whole coalition of impacted people saying we got to do this. That's coming this year. Some more expansion of some opportunities to earn your way home. None of them are officially listed yet as bills, so I can't speak to the exact, but there will be more of those.
For sure.
And I'm really, I mentioned it earlier, this understanding each other behind bars. So federal things led to the loss of federal protections to ensure that people who don't speak English as their primary language can have translation while they're in any position. But it's particularly important when you're in prison that people know what you're talking about, right? Oh, Chris, I seem to have I don't see you, Chris. So I am going to keep talking and hope that you come back in just a second. But yeah, so without that protection, we are in the. Oh, there you are. You went away for a second.
Yo, we're live. We're
All
live.
right.
We're-
Okay. That was crazy. The screen you just disappeared and it went silent on my
I
end.
was like, I was over here talking. I was asking you a question. I was going in, and I realized my screen was blue. It was just a blue. But anyways, I don't even know where you was respond. But I did have a few more questions before we get into this, or out of this thing, man, because the time is flying. How can people get involved? If my brother gets locked up and we've never encountered the justice system, and I don't want to just fight for his freedom, I want to keep going, Tosh. They hear you, they can see you. It's just me popping off.
All right.
Yeah.
So how does somebody get involved? I missed the end of the question, but I got
Yep.
that part. So the best way is to do some digging social media or online and say and it's always state specific, but in this state, who does justice reform? Look up some articles, see what organizations keep coming up. Just type justice reform and then whatever state you're in, and you'll find, especially grassroots justice reform, those organizations, they want your help. They want your voice because we're all doing it out of passion. And reach out and just be like, and you might have to reach out twice because they're probably behind on their emails, right? Because they're people doing it out of the love of the
Yeah.
game and for very little else. And so, but reach out, find them and say, hey, I want to help. What can I do? And once you have that conversation, lending your voice, you can go to the legislature, you can email your legislators. That's an obvious one, but it can also be having conversations and passing information along with things you learn to other people that need to understand it. Cause like me saying it to somebody who I don't know doesn't go as far as that person's best friend saying it, or that person's partner, or that person's kid, or that person, you know? And so like just spreading the word a little bit is a way to get involved, but definitely lending your time, treasure, and talent, right? That's the best way. Just reach out and say, whatever you can offer, time, treasure, or talent, say, I want to offer this. What can I do to help? There will be an answer.
Yeah, don't stay on an island. Get involved. There's plenty of spaces and places. And the good thing is, like, when you start getting involved with advocacy or being a voice for your loved one or yourself, you get the ability to network with a bunch of other amazing people, and connect with, different organizations and resources, etc. And when you're impacted by incarceration, at the very least, it's good to have the support. I can't say the word camaraderie. I can never say that word. But whatever that word is, it's good to just be around your people, people of similar or shared experience. So, um, Tosh, it's 20. The time done flew really fast. I done flew off the screen 2 or 3 times. Uh, I definitely would like to do a part 2 about prison industrialization, and some other things. But before we go, any final takeaways, any thoughts for this Stay Free show? And thank you again for hopping up here, man, and all the things that you do.
Oh man, Chris, thank you. Like you're getting our voices out to so many people and to everybody out there. Thank you for paying attention, right? Like most people inside are just like Chris, are just like me, right? There's very few people, Chris. I don't know, like we all have had spells where we were a little hard-headed, a little aggressive, whatever. But bad people, no, not usually. I knew the name of every person on my pod more than 2 weeks the whole time I was in there. Over 1,000 people. Exactly 5 of them I would not trust even when I was being respectful. Like most people are not sociopaths even in prison, right?
Mhm.
People are people. Treat them well, be decent to them, you'll get the same in return, right? And so everybody out there, it's just think of Chris, think of me, think everybody else is on Stay Free. That's what prison is really about, not all this nonsense you see elsewhere. I'll say that.
That's it, man. Thank you, Tosh, for the wise words. Please, y'all, check out the Humanization Project. They got a lot of great things going on, a lot of different projects, not just in Virginia, not just in Kentucky, but all over the globe. They were in Uganda last week. No, they weren't in Uganda last week, but they're making impact. You know what I'm saying? So I want you guys to check them out. And it's good to see what information is out there. And not to mention any organization. I want to challenge everyone up here on this live. If you're watching this, look up 1 to 3 organizations around you that are doing work in advocacy, just so you can see what's out there. Even if you don't want to get involved right now, just see who's out there doing the work around you, man. On that note, y'all already know what it is, man. My name is Christopher Life Willers. In 2003, I was sentenced to 144 years. So when I'm saying I'm glad